guys. How are you doing? I'm fine, thanks. It's what you should say, answer to this question in Luxembourg, or je vais bien, merci. I live in Luxembourg last 2 years and a half, and originally I'm from Russia, from Tver city, and I like diving. And what's about my profession? Last 6 years I work just as a front-end developer, and this is my stack, what usually I used. And in my previous job in Artec 3D, I met guys, and they were very passionate about 3D. And their main tasks were connected to 3D because they created 3D scanners. And now I'm working in Avalok company. It's banking software, not so interesting as 3D. That's why today we talk just about 3D. And why in my previous company it was we had tasks about 3D. That's because, as I already said, that they created 3D scanners, and when you have 3D scanner, you can have 3D model. And if you have 3D model, you want to see how it looks like. And you can see it in your native application, or you can see it in browser. And several years ago, we created a 3D viewer for 3D models. And then you can, for example, if you scan yourself, you can buy it and do whatever you want with your 3D scan. You can make like 3D cinema effects, like for games, for example, or you can have a 3D avatar and put it to some game, for VR game, for example, now. And let's see on my first example what we have as a 3D model. This is a 3D viewer from Artec 3D. It's a website which we created. And with this 3D model, you can do whatever you want, actually. For example, you can change materials. And if you want to, for example, sell it to your clients, then you need to create very nice model, very interesting. And also you can put it, for example, to the different environment map. And I will tell you how to create this environment map later in the code. But it's just example that you can set up everything. Environment map, background, you can set up the materials and how these materials look like. Okay, this was my first example. Let's continue. For all these examples, we need to know basics of WebGL. What is WebGL? First of all, it's canvas element, HTML, everybody knows, I think it. It's a JavaScript code, usual for us, and also it's shaders, OpenGL shader language. And shading language, it's another type. It's not like JavaScript. And I will continue about shading language a little bit later. Just remember that it's just JavaScript, WebGL, JavaScript, and shaders. And if you want to know about support, it supports almost everywhere, just Opera Mini doesn't support it. And there is a WebGL 2.0 version, new version. And of course, it's not supported everywhere now, but it's okay also. For example, in Chrome and Firefox, you can see it. And why I think that all this 3D team is very interesting, because actually I'm I have been playing computer games since I was 3, and I think if you even doesn't have time for computer games, you like some interactive things, because when you play in something, you remember all these like plots of what you're playing, if this game has a plot, of course, and not just Counter-Strike. Okay, and for example, and I put this link here, you can even check later, Mario game on JavaScript. I mean, it's also on WebGL on Canvas. Our brain works like this, that if you have different like images, pictures, you can have more associations about this website, about what are you doing there. If you, for example, come to presentation and just look at the person who is speaking, okay, it could be a very wonderful presentation, but if you have slides and pictures and the material will be explained with pictures and interactive things, you can remember more of it. And gamification, yes. What I want to tell that Alexander Karatayev from Three.js came to Luxembourg with a presentation, and with this example, it's the example of gamification in Tinkoff Bank, that you just playing this game on these links. It's the person jumping there, and then you can have like some discounts or whatever you want. You can use it even in banks, and it's very actual in Luxembourg, for example, because we have a lot of banks and they are very conservative and they don't think ever about games in their websites. But actually, there is a statistic that you can have more clients because of this interesting thing, because people share it, they love it. Also, Kaspersky example, they actually have different things, but let's look on this Kybermap. You can see runtime like the Earth, and where in the different cities there are cyber attacks currently, really real-time map. And also they have different, another website where they have also some statistics. It's even could be interesting for your companies. For example, if you have a lot of offices in the world, you can show it on the map, not just put static information and addresses. People will like it. Okay, another example. Car viewer, it's also about environment map, which I showed you with the girl. And here, just wait a second. Here we have also the car. And if you go to interior, then you can see this car inside and how it was done. Also with a girl in the example. You just draw in the scene, for example, a sphere, and then have pictures of this exterior of this car inside this sphere. And then you put camera inside this sphere, and then you just look with your mouse around, and you see all these textures inside the sphere. There are actually a lot of different examples of such application of WebGL, but let's go further. This is examples of like social buttons. It could be different buttons, but the idea that they can be more animated than we usually used to see it. And also form elements. It could be not just static, go to the left or to the right side. you understand that this element, it's like 3D and it's made by canvas. And this example also you could see the code of this example. But we go next. If you have your corporate website again, and for example, you want to have a wow effect on your website, like somebody come and see that, oh, I really like this website. I think this studio really can do something very interesting, but this website is for creative art director, and but he also has very nice effect. I will show you. Just wait a second. And first of all, you need to have an idea what you want to see there, how it could be. And for this, you need, I think, maybe very good designers. You see, it's like, firstly, it's like just static website, almost nothing interesting. But when you go with mouse here, you see like sphere inside a ball. It's very interesting effects. Also, galleries, because we like when galleries when you move cursor and something happens. And here you see it's like you touch water and you see these movements on your screen. And for example, also if you click on the picture, you see like it's not like static picture comes closer to you. And okay. And I like such use cases when you have a real estate agency, for example. And actually, I know several guys who really want to have some scanning of the flat, for example, and then showing to people if you want to sell it, not just pictures, like usually everybody does. And this example also, let's check it on the website. We have a flat. It could be any room. And here you can move it, touch it, and you can change. And I'm pretty sure that you can edit the colors or something if you have it in your library. And you can build here your own flat and use it for your own needs. But the idea that it's very interesting to have it on your just website. You don't need to install something else. You just go to real estate agency and see it, how you can do it and change something. And Vladimir Agafonkin already, I think, told you about Leaflet.js, about his library. And you can also have maps on your website, and it's very interesting when they're 3D. And here you can imagine that you could put a lot of tooltips and go inside and something else. It's just example of 3D map and of supermarket. Okay, and let's continue. Next example. Oh, really, this website makes me crazy. It's also a website from one creative guy. And, you know, there is even some new profession like creative developer, not just creative director or something. Creative developers, they do this 3D stuff on websites. And when you click here, you can see his projects where he participated. And if you scroll, you see that these objects becomes particles, very small. And it's also when you have some music, if you want, it's really like, I don't know, I feel me like a DJ or something when I click on this website. Really. You can have just one object and make it like a particles, and it's very cool effect. Also, if you, for example, working in some sphere with some agency about renovations in the houses, this actually Ukrainian company Unilimes, they created a lot of 3D stuff, and I want to show you one example which I like. It's about changing tiles on the wall, and actually it's very interesting how it was done. You have picture, just picture, and one part of this picture is canvas 3D. This one, you see, interactive, and you can click here and change different to different particles, to different tiles. Sorry. And you can change angles of it, for example, like here, yeah. And even sometimes you can click and choose parts and put another type of tiles. Okay, I will close it. Solar system, it's just funny example from Chrome experiments, but also very nice example if you need also some 3D maps. Okay, let's talk about shaders, a little bit theory, because I'm not sure that everybody in this place knows a lot about WebGL and shaders. As I said, that shaders, it's something special, and if you write shaders on your web page, it will be with like strings if you write it without any modulus. And you need to use JavaScript strings, and you need to use C syntax. And when actually you can change in browser shaders in runtime. If you go, for example, in Mozilla browser, they have special settings. You can go there, change something, and you will see the result immediately on your web page. And the most, I think, important advantage of WebGL that all shaders, they are working on GPU. It means that the resources which we use for showing it, they like for native games. When you install some native game on your I don't know, laptop, it doesn't matter, desktop computer, the resources which we're using, it will be GPU. That's why it's faster. That's opportunity to be faster. And with shaders of WebGL, it's the same. You can use GPU. It's not browser resources. Because of it is C++, C syntaxes, we use types. And it's these types from WebGL 1.0 version, and in 2.0 version, they have a little bit more types, but it's not big deal for us. We have TypeScript now. And let's talk about vertex and shader, vertex shader and fragment shader a little bit. What it is? Vertex shader takes care of points of vector objects, what we want to see finally. And vertex shader is working for each vertex in of our 3D object. And fragment shader, what it's doing? It's drawing our points to pixels on the web page. And how it is working, we call it rasterization. When vector object becomes rasterized, and we see it in pixels. You can see that, for example, if we have a triangle, then it could be drawing with one very bright, for example, color in the inside this triangle, and on the borders you can have like a opacity a little bit lower than 1. And this process of rasterization and all objects of ours, on our scene, they are made from triangles, actually. This first example of small implementation of WebGL on my web page, I draw a point and how it was done. It was done with this code. Here we see vertex shader on the top, and you see it's JavaScript strings. We have main function in each shader. This function will return the result of this shader. And the idea of vertex shader it's to have a size. For example, if we talk about point, it's to have a size of this point, and also its position. Position is where on our scene we will have exactly this point, her place, its place on the web page. And as I said, fragment shader, it's about color. That's why we see fragment color. We have 4 different parameters for its RGB colors, and the last parameter is opacity. And then all these strings in function main, we see it's everything what should be done to draw at least something on the canvas with WebGL technology. We like say that there are shaders, then we compile the shaders, attach shaders to the program of 3D. 3D it's like WebGL. And then we use them and draw what we have inside these shaders. It's the easiest one program. And if we want to have round point, because first was square point, we need to a little bit improve our shader, and to say that we don't draw like all frag color, we draw just inside the radius. And other pixels we don't draw. And do you like this? I think it's pretty hard to draw very hard objects, a very big one. That's why we use different libraries. For example, for React, there are already React 360 degrees, and you can already use it for React. It's pretty easy. I will not show the example. It's really very easy. Like you install this element and use it, and then connect your JavaScript code and shaders. Also in Google, we have already web component, but it's in active development currently. It's also something like this. They use model viewer tag, especially from their library, and you can look at this example later. And what I use and what usually was used in our Tech 3D company, it's Three.js library. But I need to say that when we faced with a problem of performance, we decided, and we wanted to create like 3D studio where you can edit very, very big models like a street. We scan the street. And then you want to see all these houses on the street in your browser, like a native application. Then we decided that we need, don't use Three.js library and write something our own in native WebGL. But it depends on your case. If you need just to have some small 3D nice application, you can use libraries and don't be afraid about performance issue. With Three.js, it's quite easy, and for usual not big models, it's okay. Okay, about Three.js library. In Three.js library, and I think in a lot of other libraries about 3D, you can you need to understand basics. What we have on our web page, what you need to install there. First of all, you need to install a scene. Then you need to have light, because without light you can't see anything on your scene. Then you need to put camera. You see this place, it's camera. And when I show my examples, we look with this from this place. And there, and further you have here the scene. And render, it's an object for drawing our scene. We just use it to draw it. For example, we can draw it as it is. For example, you can add to render some effects and draw something more. Not just vector object, but with some 3D effects, which you can also do with this library. And also, as I said, that each object in Three.js library, it's triangles. And triangles consist of points. And if you want to look any model from any 3D designer on your website, you need to understand that you need to have object of your model. It's a 3D vector object. And then you also can have everything actually in this file, like you can have also colors of this object inside this file, or you can have another file for materials or another file for texture. It depends on how model was created. And another example, it's wireframing. It could be interesting for small use cases when you need to see some geometry of this model. You can understand how many polygons in this model using this wireframe mode. And here just to show that wireframe mode, it's nothing, it's not some rocket science, it's just one property that you already have a material, you already have a model, you just use wireframe property to true there, and that's all, and you can see it in polygons mode. And next, what I should tell you, it's about camera, because there are always two main cameras in 3D world. It's perspective camera, when you see everything like we see, and orthographic camera. You see the difference that with perspective camera, we see objects, far objects, like a small one. And with orthographic, everything is the same. It doesn't matter where it is. Okay, then small examples how we can change different materials. Materials, textures, and it's also you can use in this library a lot of different objects for this. It's very good documentation, and this example of usual materials, mesh pong material or shader material, it's a little bit more complex because you need to write some shaders. If you want to have very something beautiful, like not from a box of library, you can write anything in any shader and then just connect it to shader material object, and that's all. It's not hard. This object, you see, it's like a glass material. That's why it's transparent. And now we will look how we can create environment map. It's what I said. When you stay inside some sphere or square, it doesn't matter, and you look inside this and see like a beautiful world, but it will be just photos of something. And how I created it. First of all, you have several pictures to put inside sphere or inside square, because you can be inside square, inside cube, I mean. And to each side of this cube, you can have a photo and look. And then you just implement all this photo, say that use it for special material, and then use photo as a inside material as a texture. Use just photo, and that's all here. Then also you need to set up the object inside, and this object should have some special properties, because in the environment map you need to understand that the colors of environment map, they should affect this object. For example, also like in this screen, it's not just a transparent. If you look at this mask in the example, then you will see that it's like reflecting the environment map where it is existed, and this the main idea of environment map. It's not also a big deal. You just put properties about reflection here, and say that it should be double side, for example, because this mask was scanned just with one face, and in the back we didn't see anything, and for this you need to have double side also. And then, yes, just set up some shyness and transparent, and that's all. You just read each property in the documentation and decided what you need for your... You can... Actually, when I was creating different examples, it was just playing a game. You just put something, check, was it more beautiful or no? And then decide, do you want it? As I said about post-processing, because you can render scene as it is, or you can add some effects. And this example about effects. Effect composer also just object from a box of this library. And the idea that you see we send to effect composer as a parameter our renderer, what draw in our scene. And then we adding to this composer some effects, like, and for example, here we see toon effect, it's like cartoon or something, and we add some shaders to this composer object and draw it like, okay, I will show it's better, that there is a scene with objects, but then we put shader which making shake effect and this, like, I don't know, bug in the system, we in matrix or something. And this effect was done in shaders, that's why we add this special shader to our composer, and then we just like mix our scene with this effect, and that's all with this example. Also, it could be very interesting with this example. Wait a second, I will open it here. We have an object just on our scene, but it's like in presentation mode. It's very museums like it. You can have different tips, different notes, or sometimes you even can interactively to click on something and check it. And all this presentation also was done in WebGL, because it's everything around this 3D model. Different notes, tooltips, and etc. Okay. And my favorite effect, the last main effect, it's particles. I really like it. And before in old games in my childhood, the fire was like this. And now we have very nice fire. For example, in last Assassin's Creed and Odyssey, I saw, oh, it's so beautiful weather there. You're just going and it's so cool. You want to be there. And these particle systems is done with small objects or the same vector objects, like points or something. This example also with static particles, you can check it, but I will show you a more interesting example. Wait a second, view demo, yes. And I tried to put examples sometimes with code, because if somebody wants to do the same, then you can read more about it. And here you have load any model, and then do whatever you want with this model. And because, for example, it could be my 3D scan, then I put it here and draw this model like a small points. And then you can play with these points and do them in different colors, or like you can throw to it something, I don't know, like anti-stress. And also connected to particle systems, and not just particle system, it's a very important question about interaction, how you can touch objects on the scene, because it's just canvas element, and we know usually just add event listener method to work with events. And here it's also example with like projects of one girl, but she did it very nice, in very nice mode. You see, first of all, it's parallax, and parallax, it's not like 3D, but it's feeling that your website is alive. It's also a very interesting effect. But when you go, move your cursor on this element, you see that it's like becomes bright, and you click and you can look what it is, but it's just projects of this girl, and we can look at them here. And how we can do it? It's raycasting. It's called raycasting. Here, look please at the right screen, that it's like a camera inside, and then you have walls. And we need to catch at which object on the scene we got the interaction, because on a 3D scene you can have, for example, several planets. And if you click here, that you need to see first planet and interact with first planet, but not with the last on the back. And when this it's working like this. You got interactions with everything on your scene. And for this type of working with our scene, we need also to use some special object. And actually, this object is not in the core of the library, but it's just small detail where you need to, if you need to interact with your 3D scene, then you need to add it as additional library. It's like Three.js and Three.js Raycasting. It's not big file, but it's easy to use. You just implement it, and then use set that for raycasting you need to know the mouse, where it is, all the events and etc., and camera, because we need to connect camera and the mouse. And then with method intersect objects, you can got intersections, like catch this mouse, catch where exactly your cursor is was on the scene. Okay, and now a little bit less 3D, and this example is how you can change 3D. For example, if browser doesn't support WebGL, or if any errors in your code, you can just catch errors and show this mode. It's also could be very useful for your websites. There is a Real.js library. Actually, there are a lot of libraries like this. But the main idea that you just say that, for example, use photos from this folder. There are 24 photos in this folder. And you attach this with data attributes to the element. and then it will be always like here, rotating on the same place, but it's pictures. And actually sometimes people doesn't understand, is it real 3D or it's pictures? If you have very big bunch of pictures, it could be like real 3D. And also you can do it with vertical and in horizontal way also. Okay. The last small note, what you can use in your websites if you already started to draw something and you don't understand why my texture is blurring. You don't understand why it happened, and then you need to use getMax anisotropy, a method from the library that which can make your objects in different angles. It doesn't matter how far will be your object, but the texture will be shown as it is, without blurring. It could be useful, but also it takes more performance from your browser, of course, because it's rendering with more details your scene. What's the point? Why I'm talking with you about 3D again and again? Because I think that you need to think in different ways on what are you doing currently. Because each time when you came to your job and do your stuff, for example, my stuff and my job, I just now do a lot of CSS stuff, a little bit JavaScript stuff, okay, but I want to do something more than my employee wants from me. That's why you need to generate ideas. You need to be more creative. You need to think, why I need to do these tasks in this way? Maybe I can do something more than they want from me. It's also very good to go and ask about requirements. Maybe you can have I don't say that in each website you need to put 3D and all these interactions. But for example, if you want to start your own business and you want to have your own website, you can put it there and it will be really nice for you and nice for everybody who look at your profile. And be open-minded. Don't think that, oh, this is stupid, it's not for me, or this is crazy, this takes more performance. No, it doesn't take. Actually, everybody who knows how to use 3D, and if they think that it could be useful for their websites, they're doing it, and they becomes first in this competition compared to their competitors. And the last thing is dream. Always dream, because your imagination creates new ideas and you can be better and more proactive and develop yourself. And here just links which could be useful. And from Three.js, the first link is very interesting. If you want to use Three.js, this is like interactive tutorial they created, not just manual. Now it's interactive example of this library. It's very good one. And the last thing what I want to say that in our Luxembourg JS community, we also have meetups almost each month. And if you want to be our guest, we are very glad to see you in Luxembourg. And thank you, and дякую.
Thank you very much, Vasilika. Please welcome here. We are ready to ask you some questions. And first question will be as easy as it can be. Have you ever created a 3D model of yourself?
I didn't create it from scratch because I can't draw. That's why I like 3D models. You can just scan yourself and look at yourself in your website. Yes, I have several 3D models on me and I can show it with Three.js, but I can't draw myself.
And how did you use it?
How was
How
I?
did you use 3D models of yourself? Did you create websites with yourself as a free model?
I have website, yes, and in my website it was one old model of me, yes.
Can I rotate you on this website?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Can this be used for online broadcasts, for example, football match, for example, replays of most interesting moments in 3D?
Football in 3D?
Yeah.
I didn't get the idea. I know that some guys use it for like real-time games or something with another people, not in your country, for example. But about football, what's the idea to translate it? You can just use video, no? Didn't get the question.
I suppose the question was about covering the video, for example, or replaying it with 3D models of players, for example, something like that.
Yes. Actually, there is even game, but it's not browser game. I know that there is one football game where they scan footballists and put 3D version of footballist to the game.
Okay.
And then you can do it with yourself.
There are few file formats for 3D models. What is the difference between them, and which one is the best for usage in web?
In my career, there are a lot of. I know that there is a very good one from Google. It was something like Draco file. I don't remember exactly the name, but I think something like Draco. And the big difference between different type of files is that you can have all colors inside one file, or you can put it to the texture, for example, and use texture. And with texture, models could be more beautiful than if you have color inside the file. It's you need to understand, yeah.
What is the most interesting thing you have scanned?
Oh, I can't say what we saw on our website. Sorry.
Okay.
It's private information.
For example, of course 3D is very cool, but can you name some examples of things where 3D is misused, where it is used wrong, and when you can recommend to use, for example, a Aurelian, like you showed, instead of 3D, and maybe other examples?
I think that that if you have opportunity to, because a lot of models, they don't take too much time. You saw that I showed almost all examples runtime, and we wait just a few seconds to load it. And that's why I don't think that there is case when you don't need, but you have an idea how to use it, but you don't need it. No, if you have an idea, I think it's better to use it always. But yeah, if you have performance issues, for example, on TV, yeah, we have JavaScript on TV. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't suggest you to use WebGL. I think they're in your web applications for TV.
And in your experience, is WebGL very consumable for battery? So, is the battery runs out of energy in the telephone faster than without WebGL?
Yeah, with WebGL it starts flying, I think, sometimes because the noise of even my MacBook, yeah, sometimes it becomes hot.
Okay.
Please choose the best question.
There were a lot of them, but
there are a lot of questions. I need to remember them all.
we can list them if it is difficult for you.
Yeah, I just want to remember all of them.
Yeah, okay. For example, I can do this after our talk,
okay.
and we will...
we will do it.
Yeah, okay. Thank you then again. Thank you very much. Let's give
Thank you.
Vasilika some applause.